We do have open. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from December 17th and January 7th.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. And we have a bunch of new public hearings tonight. And first off is Hockomock Swamp Wildlife Management. All right. We'll go reading the huge entire posting. You want to start the presentation?
Sure.
Your name?
Would you prefer I stand?
Yep.
Hi, I'm Alex Patterson. I'm a project scientist at ESS Group on behalf of the Massachusetts Division of Fisheries and Wildlife, or Mass Wildlife for short. Mass Wildlife has prepared a habitat management plan for the Hockomock Swamp Wildlife Management Area, goal of which is to provide a range of management actions to improve and enhance important wildlife habitats. Hockomock Swamp, as I'm sure you all know, is the largest freshwater wetland system in Massachusetts. It supports a wide variety of important wetland communities and wildlife species, including several rare species. Recent surveys conducted by Mass Wildlife have shown that there are some invasive species issues, primarily related to Phragmites, but also other invasives, different areas throughout the wildlife management area. And so the goal of the habitat management plan primarily is to control invasive species, but also control other general species which tend to reduce the habitat complexity of sensitive wetland communities, and then also help support fire-adapted vegetative communities through targeted prescribed burning activities. And then finally to assess whether beaver-related flooding is impacting sensitive wetland communities, and if so, to mitigate that. So there's a variety of management actions being proposed, chemical treatments of invasive species, mechanical management through mowing, cutting, pruning, burning, and then in the case of beaver-related flooding, installation of water level control devices. There are several impact avoidance and minimization measures that are sort of included in this that are listed in the filing, but the key ones with respect to herbicide applications would be that they would only be conducted by licensed applicators in the state using products that are licensed in Massachusetts for use in wetland systems in accordance with product labels. Any time they need to access wetland habitats with vehicles, they would use low ground pressure vehicles when ground conditions aren't stable. And then with respect to prescribed burning, that would obviously be conducted as part of a comprehensive fire management plan prepared by a qualified professional. And that work would also require permits from DEP and the fire department, and they would notify the fire department before the work would start. So they're looking for an order of conditions to do the work. Obviously, it's kind of a long-term plan, so there's no particular area where work would happen necessarily at any given time, but they'd like to have the flexibility to do management when and where it's necessary to enhance habitats.
Before we go too far, I will make a public disclosure that I did receive a letter. I am an abutter to their property, which I'm sure there are a lot of people in town are.
I also received.
I will not be voting unless it's required for necessity tonight.
Okay.
Just letting that disclosure. Yes.
Can we get some volume from the speaker?
Oh, yeah, I am not voting tonight because I am an abutter to this project.
No.
Oh, for him?
Can't hear him.
Okay, he can have him stand to the side maybe.
Okay.
Here. John, do you have a report?
Well, I just wanted to ask if any commission members received butter notification. So we have at least 3 voting members.
So we'll have 2
for a quorum.
abstaining, and there'll be 3.
Okay, and I also want to point out that we received a digital file of 56 pages of the receipt for the certified mailing to all of the abutters on the list, which I have attached the amount of abutters. You probably even know how many there were, roughly.
Yeah, it's just under 300, I think.
So, rather than having all the slips, I'm going to turn this in as their indication that they've notified all of the abutters.
How big an area are we talking, roughly?
Just in
I
West
think it's
Bridgewater.
well, the entire wildlife management area, I think, is about 5,000 acres. So I'm not sure exactly how much of that is just in West Bridgewater, but
Is this being done anywhere else?
Easton and Bridgewater. So we're attending
So it's
hearings
just down
there.
here then?
Yes, this is the first hearing. But we'll also need permits from those
How's
Concons
it
as well.
going with those two downs?
We haven't had the hearings yet.
Oh, I mean, you haven't done any of that?
Well, we
anything like
filed,
that?
but this
So
is the
all
first
new
hearing.
for this whole 5,000 acres?
Yes.
The herbicides that you mentioned, I assume the greater good is to get rid of the invasive species.
Yeah, that's the goal. Yep.
Otherwise, they'd grow wild, I'm sure.
Yeah, Phragmites is really the big one,
that
as
the
I'm sure.
vine?
No, that's the reed. The common name is common reed.
Mhm.
So it has like the kind of fluffy tops,
Oh, yeah.
and it gets really tall. So, I'm sure if you've ever seen marshes that are just completely full of
At the
common
golf
reed,
course. Yeah.
it can really take
Snuff it
over.
out,
So that's the main invasive that they're looking to control.
Okay.
But there are others here and there, and
How
small.
often do you do a survey in these areas?
They did a survey. The report was generated last year, and I think the survey was done either last year or the year before. They've sort of haven't done much management in the past few years, so they're looking to sort of restart the management
Sure.
before things get worse.
That's all I had.
I would point out that the Phragmites, which are a good example of let's say, a total wipeout of natural vegetation occurs across from Trukey's. If you
Oh, yeah,
notice that
sure,
all those
sure.
reeds there, it just goes in and wipes out any understory ground cover or any saplings, anything that wants to sprout. So burning wouldn't do it. It actually either, matter of fact, trying to take out the roots doesn't usually do it. So the only way to do it is by herbicide.
Sure.
So I think that this is a good plan. I've read it. It seems to cover most everything that's necessary to try to maintain the Hockomock Swamp in a healthy and good way
Mhm.
for the various wildlife and endangered species that are in there.
Mhm.
And so I don't have any issue whatsoever with this project.
One question, accessing areas either off of public roads or places where you have easements, rights of way?
Yeah. Obviously, access is challenging in some areas. So in some cases, they may use the utility right-of-ways because in a lot of cases where the invasive species are worst is near the right-of-ways because of the disturbance that's happened historically. So they may access there. I think they have some ability to access using existing trails or roads. But I mean, they would only be accessing through their own property.
If they are accessing through the utility rights of way, have they gotten permission from the utility to use their easement, or will you be contacting the individual property owners? I being one of them.
Yeah, I don't know whether or not they would do that, but if they did, they would, get permission from whoever they need to. But I think for the most part, they plan to access, using either, a lot of areas are only going to be accessible by foot, So either walking trails with like a backpack sprayer and then kind of bushwhacking, or in some cases using amphibious vehicles to access through wetlands.
Is that you can use the river boat?
Potentially, I mean, they would need to have sort of a tracked vehicle to carry the equipment that they need. So probably not via a boat, I would guess.
We can put it in the order of conditions.
Okay. Anybody else here? Okay, I'll open it up to the audience. Anybody have questions, comments? Yes.
I came in partway through, I didn't know anyways, it was quite so early. But my question is, if the right-of-way under the power line is mowed, does that mean you won't be spraying that area? And like,
Well, they're not proposing to do any work in the right-of-way itself because the utility companies already do that.
okay,
So this is just for the other parts of the wildlife management area, like the marshes and the forested areas.
okay, I am in a butter, so I just was curious.
Yeah, the utility companies get permits to do vegetation management in the right-of-way, so that's separate from what's being proposed here.
Is this becoming a problem right now because of why hasn't it been done earlier,
Well,
years ago or something like that?
yeah, they have done management in the past. I think, to be honest, it's a matter of funding and, priorities, and they may get funding to do management for a certain number of years, and then they, have to turn their attention elsewhere. There's a lot of land that they manage, so the goal is to try to knock it back to improve things and then, keep going from there.
And how long were you looking for this project to last?
Well, the standard time period for an order of conditions is 3 years, although I've worked on other projects where we've had a 5-year order of conditions, so if the commission's amenable to that, we'd certainly appreciate that.
I'll have a 3.
Well, that's why I was asking, because I know we've had them go for 3 and then come back and ask for an extension afterwards. Don't know, just throwing it out there for the 3 members to make a decision
Is
whether
it a
they...
possibility you could get it all done in 3 years, or?
Well, like I say, it's sort of an ongoing thing, so if we were to get a 3-year order of conditions, there would likely be an extension. If we got a 5-year order of conditions, there may be extensions. So the goal is to try to manage the habitat in the long term. Having a 5-year just means we have a couple more years until we need to ask for an extension, but that's sort of up to the commission.
I'd recommend 3 and then ask for
See how
extension.
it's
Should leave it
going.
at 3.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, then you can come back and give us an update on how it's
Sure.
going.
Yeah.
Anybody have any other questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. Oh, yep.
Just again, I don't know if you saw, but the Sunday Boston Globe had an article about the, one of the things was worrisome as far as the current administration is gonna, cut funding and make it more lenient as far as wetlands.
Mhm.
So I wondered, what your opinion is and how that's gonna affect you.
You're talking about the federal government?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like things are always changing. I don't think that has any direct implications for this project, so I don't think it'd be appropriate for me to offer an opinion.
That would be great if you can get the work done.
Entertain a motion to...
I'll make the motion.
Second.
I'll second it.
All
Oh.
in favor? The 3 in favor? or-
Yeah, aye.
Aye.
So moved. Motion to issue an order of conditions.
Make the motion.
Second that.
And all in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
And
All in that.
50-foot
Oh.
waiver, because they'll be in.
That's right. Entertain a motion to allow 50-foot waiver.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Put these doors here for-
Right, next we have map 65, lots 4, 6, 7 Pleasant Street. read this one in since it's a little more amenable. Under the Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40 of Mass General Law is amended, and the West Bridgewater Wetland Protection Bylaw Rules and Regulations, and the West Bridgewater Stormwater Management Bylaw, the West Bridgewater Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing the January 21st in the McDonald Brown Conference Room, 65 North Main Street. A notice of intent filed by Connor McLaughlin for map 65, lots 4, 6, and 7 on Pleasant Street. And we are open. And John has the cards.
Yep.
Okay.
Right there. Hi, folks. My name is Tom Pazerski from Merrill Engineers in Plymouth. And I was before you probably about 4 years ago with this particular project. The things that changed is the state outdoor advertising board requires them to have a business there. And one of the things that D'Angelo's has is they do have a need for a contractor's yard here. So in order to satisfy the operation of the billboard, they're going to put a contractor's building up here. We did soil exams in here. We've got the wetlands line delineated by ECR. The line did come up slope some areas by about 20 feet or so. The good thing is where we've placed the sign now, we've got this area here where the old proposal had about 4,000 square feet of wetlands filling and replication. The new proposal has 1,525 square feet, so we've been able to substantially reduce the impact into the wetland resource area. We've got 3,100 square feet of replication here. On the backside, if you so desire to see it, I can show you the wetlands replication plan that was prepared by ECR Environmental. We have an extensive stormwater management system here. The system fully complies with DEP's stormwater requirements and the town's comprehensive stormwater regulations for a general permit. We will have erosion control measures placed along the limit of the work here, and we'll have a second row placed adjacent to where the billboard work is. The only thing that changed as far as the public benefit portion of this project, there was a dog leg that came down here and a little bit of a parking lot here, but you can see we still have the grass area here. We've made a little more extensive loop trail in here, and that will be donated and made available for public access through and around the site to the Blueberry Farm area. We do have, as you can see, strategically placed benches around there. If the town needs more of them, we can do that. The same conditions that you had for the last time, as far as this open space area, the scholarship, et cetera, still apply. Those will be instituted and carried forward for somebody who wants to pursue, and I believe the language was an environmental degree for the scholarship.
What was it?
I think it was like at least $10,000.
wasn't it?
It was
Yeah.
at least 10,000. It was a pretty good one. And the stormwater management consists of a pea stone diaphragm, grass swale, two-way sediment trap, and then from the sediment trap, it goes into a sand filter to the storage basin, overflows here to a level spread. It exceeds DEP's requirements. CSS removal is about 98%. This is a real good shallow system with low maintenance. We do have a during construction maintenance plan here with a sediment trap right here, dewatering facility here. So, and we have another one up near the sign area too. So if they have to do anything, it's all planned for, and they are not using any of the post-development stormwater management structures. We have a program in place for long-term pollution prevention inside the facility here. There is one change that the client called me on as I was in the parking lot. They do have a need for a slightly larger building. This is a 4,000 square foot building. What he wants to do is just square this off here, get rid of the parking lot here, and add about 1,600 square feet. Now, I fully understand if the commission wants to see an updated plan and continue this, they are amenable to that. I do want to point out that that addition of the building in here has no impact on the stormwater runoff, because you're taking parking lot runoff and you're substituting it with clean runoff. The other thing that you might want to be aware of is that we are providing 1,764 cubic feet of recharge, and the requirement that we have is about 5-fold to 7-fold smaller for the water quality and recharge volumes. So this system just blows out of the water the state requires by about 5 to 7-fold for each of those. So, that's what I have. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Oh, one other thing, as part of our permit too, I think this is important from an aesthetic standpoint, is under our special permit, we have to put a dense row screening along here to screen the yard and segregate it from the walking trails. So I think that's a good thing. And then we're gonna preserve the natural buffer all along here as best as we can, so it'll be a nice L-shaped, densely wooded area.
So what kind of building is that gonna be?
It's just a metal building, contractors built for storing equipment in. They haven't needed.
Is that what it was gonna be anyways?
Yeah,
No mechanic work done, right? Just vehicle storage?
I think pretty much vehicle storage in there, yeah. Because if they have no mechanics work, then when they go, they have to submit to the building commissioner the architectural plans and everything else. So if they have to do that, and then they have to put in a non-hazardous industrial holding tank in there.
Right, that's why I was bringing that up now,
Yeah.
just so we all knew if it
No,
was.
and my client's aware of that, so if he
Okay.
changes that, when he does that, then that's going on the plan, and that will be
Okay.
part of the submittal, which I will have to certify at the end.
The only other thing I'm gonna ask that I have is snow storage, snow removal. We normally require on the plans now a designated area, so
Yeah.
we know where it's getting put.
Yeah, we have an area right over through here, and I think you'll find that in the set.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I got a full set here if you need it. We
John?
got plenty of area.
So refresh my memory about the walking trail area. That is all going to be part of an easement on the property?
Yeah, we could have it defined as an easement plan or provide this as, what I would recommend you do is we could do an easement plan and don't define this is a walking trail, but this whole area becomes an easement exclusive of the billboard with descriptive rights in it. Does that make sense?
And exclusive of the building
Correct.
and parking lot portion of the
Correct.
site?
Yeah.
So the parking lot, is that gonna have some kind of barrier around it, berm or anything like that, or is it?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're gonna have we actually have the stormwater basin here, and then over in the back here. If you wanted to, I would leave this open here, because you're gonna have runoff be able to still continue to flow downhill. But that's why we negotiate having a dense screen of plantings here. We could even squeeze a double row in there if you wanted.
I'm just thinking of snow, like in the wintertime, for salt or anything like that in piles.
Oh, that's why we designated this area in here, and then they could put it over here too, because if it's put here and here, along this whole side here, and anything along here will shed this way, then it gets in the treatment system.
Was the original sign in the same spot?
The original
Or
sign
did it
was
move a
further
little?
up, it was way up here,
Okay.
and that's why there was so much more additional wetlands alteration. We took
Right.
advantage of this finger in here.
Yeah.
It's longer construction for them, but it's much less impact into the wetland area.
Was it a visibility issue, you think, why they
Yeah.
had to move it?
Yeah, yes, they weren't, it wasn't acceptable to the sign company to have it back here, and that was what we discussed a few years ago.
But the existing sign is,
The existing sign is right here.
okay, gotcha, all right.
Any other questions, comments?
No.
How about the details, like on the scholarship and so forth? Is that work it's,
That the way we were proposing it the last time is that it would have to be before any construction, that would have to be worked out.
good?
My feeling is that the same type of condition will apply to this one. The only difference is that I need to talk to the town administrator and possibly town council
Mhm.
to make sure that we get it correct on this,
Sure.
so that there isn't any problem with doing it this way.
Right.
So we'd have to continue it anyway, Tom, but I would like to see the
Final.
the plan amended to show the building. And also would like to take the interim time here to speak with town council and the town administrator about this scholarship idea.
Yep.
Otherwise, I
Yeah,
have no.
Brian McGlough was all for it too, so.
I'm fine.
Anybody else's questions, comments, audience? Hearing none, I'll entertain
here to see me.
I'll entertain a motion to close.
Motion to close the hearing?
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Actually, excuse me.
We gotta,
We're continuing
no, we
that
have
one.
to continue.
Motion to continue.
Yeah, till,
Second, all those in favor. Next meeting, 2 weeks?
2 weeks, perfect. Okay, thank you.
Next, we have 173 Turnpike Street. I'll read this one into the record. Under the Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40 of Mass General Law is amended in the West Bridgewater Wetland Protection Rules and Regulations. The West Bridgewater Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing the 21st of January in the McDonald Brown Conference Room, 65 North Main Street, for a notice of intent filed by Arthur Borden and Associates on behalf of Richard Hemingway. The construction of a detached garage and associated driveway extension within 200 feet of riverfront at Questbrook, 175 Turnpike Street. We're open, and I have the green cards.
Joshua Borden on behalf of my client, Richard Hemingway, with an office at 302 Broadway in Rainham. Pretty simple. We're looking to add a detached garage to a previously altered riparian zone. We are doing some work within 100 feet of the river. It's about 128 square feet of permanent disturbance and about 212 feet of temporary disturbance, just to be able to get the footing and the foundation in. That temporary disturbance will be restored back to its existing the way it is existing, and there'll be associated the silt sock around to be able to control any runoff or anything while the excavation is going on. Pretty simple and straightforward.
On your plan, can you show where the 50-foot?
it's right here.
Right here.
Okay.
The first pink is the 50 foot. So
Yeah.
everything's outside of the 50. Most of the garage is probably about I think the closest point is 75.5 feet to the wetlands, and probably closest to the brook is probably about 85 feet or so.
John?
So they did an alternatives analysis, and I'm not really in favor of this project. I believe the commission is willing to work with the homeowner on this so that the homeowner can have a garage. Because there's really, as the alternative analysis indicate, there's really not much else that can be done. So in order to not set a precedent here, I'd like to ask Mr. Borden whether he has offered any mitigation to convince the commission, me, and possibly the commission members, why this should be approved.
I guess the only thing I can tell you is that 90% of the work right now is in existing existing disturbed riverfront area. We could certainly do some mitigation to whatever the board would want to see, but we're not really doing any alteration to anything that isn't already grass, lawn, for the most part, other than just a little bit within the 100-foot to the Queeset Brook.
The proposed garage looks like the tree line goes through the middle of it.
Yeah. There's if we pulled, the only problem with pulling the garage forward to get it even closer out, you're putting it right in front of the house at that point. There's no other place on the lot, the house, that a garage can really go on this lot and make the property look aesthetically pleasing.
Show me where the house is.
The house is right here.
Which way does it face?
The house faces Turnpike Street.
So
If I pulled the garage so that it's outside of even the 100-foot, or even outside of the tree line, it's going to put the garage such that it covers up at least half, if not 3/4 of the front of the house.
So where's the septic on that?
The septic is underneath the garage, is underneath the driveway.
So what's behind the house?
They can't meet the zoning
You
setback.
can't meet the setbacks.
Oh, no,
So
I'm
the-
saying.
And
So
there's
the
not
alternative-
this.
The alternatives analysis pretty much explains all that, which I did have a chance to go and review. The question I have here is, the performance standards does require them to demonstrate how this does not impact the interests of providing that 100-foot corridor along the river undisturbed. And of course, within certain, within the regulations, certain amount of the outer 100 can be disturbed. And we're not talking about the outer 100, we're talking about the intrusion into the inner 100-foot or 100-foot closest to the river bank. So my question again is, what are you offering to the commission that they can
I guess
accept
I'm willing
on
to listen to
on
suggestions
behalf
from-
of the environment and the resource area to allow you to do this?
I'm willing to listen to suggestions.
So
from
you
the
haven't
commission.
offered anything?
I don't really have much to offer. I don't.
Oh, how big's the garage? How
It's
many cars?
28 by 28.
How many cars? Two?
Two.
See where the driveway comes in?
Yep.
What happens if you move the garage in the driveway and then down?
I'm still within 100. Even no matter where you move it, you're going to be covering the front of the house, and you're going to still be within 100. This is the inner 100-foot riparian. You're actually, if you move it further down, you're
Yeah,
going
but
to be in it more.
No, if you move it closer to the street. and
Yeah,
then-
you're going to be even more into the.
You're talking
So-
right in here,
Moving it down here,
right in here.
Move it over.
down here.
You're going to be right in front of the house. You're going to
No,
not
it's
see the house at all.
It's further
Further
away
down.
though.
I understand that. You can still have the
Oh,
driveway.
because the septic systems.
And you're probably going to be too close to the septic system.
So this lot was created after the Rivers Protection Act. The commission at that time, when they approved the construction of this house, had to weigh the idea of letting the developer, which he actually created two lots, this lot and the one behind it, as part of the overall parcel. So they probably did some analysis at that time as to what was the impact to the riverfront area. There was an old house on this property years before this was built into two house lots. And so, assuming that they thrashed that idea around considerably and then eventually approved it, now this commission's being asked to allow some additional consideration that it doesn't necessarily, even though the alternatives analysis implied that it does meet the performance standards, I don't believe it does, because he hasn't shown how this does not take away from the interest of providing a 200-foot buffer along rivers. So the only way he can do that is to offer some additional mitigation, and I would say that this applicant and his representatives needs to sit down in the conservation office, come up with some ideas as to what to do to provide that mitigation. And I have some ideas, and then continue this to the next meeting and see if they go along with it. If they do, they can draw it on the plan, and then I would be happy. And then I would be able to recommend to the commission that they've done everything they can. But to not offer anything, the next developer that comes along would want to do the same thing. And I don't think we can let that happen. We're trying to be fair and consistent from one project to the next.
In the 200 foot from the river, it's not
It's 100 from the river, the inner.
it's
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
us
I mean,
saying
it,
it's just the way it is.
Yes.
I mean, the only, again, sitting down with you, they might be creative and figure out something with the shed in the back area where it can be shifted outside of the 100 foot and extend that 100 foot in the back corner to add additional mitigation, or
Mhm.
something in the front yard area, maybe additional plantings or something. But
Precisely.
yeah, I mean, it
Precisely.
needs to be something given here.
Like I said,
mean,
I'm open to suggestions. I just
yeah.
Because you're gonna have to take down trees.
not there's not a lot of it's not a very thickly wooded area right near where we would be taking down. So it's a tree line, but it's not. We wouldn't be cutting down a whole heck of a lot of trees.
I agree with John. I think mitigation is in order. We tried to rule fairly with 50-foot buffers, 100 feet. In this case, if we rule consistently, we're the same with everyone, if you understand what I'm saying.
No, I understand. I understand where you guys.
So
are coming from.
that's what I would recommend, is sitting down and trying to figure out how you can mitigate
Was
this.
that, is the house recently purchased, or have these people been here for a while?
When did you guys?
About
purchase?
10 years?
Been
11
there
years.
10 years, 11 years?
2009, yeah.
Any signs of selling?
Any signs of selling? No, we're looking to stay there long term, so that's why we're trying to
Okay.
improve the property.
All right, then I'll entertain a motion to continue to the next meeting.
2 weeks.
2 weeks? Good enough?
Any abutters?
Any abutters, questions, comments?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Who's that, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
So set something up, come in,
Yeah.
we'll sit down, we'll go over it.
All right.
Next, we have 159 South Elm Street. Anybody? 159, anybody here for that? All right, we'll skip over that. 55 South Street.
Before you do that, maybe they're out in the hall?
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
Collins?
Is it 8 South? Which South Street?
55.
That
It's a stormwater management permit only.
Find the attachment here.
I think they went to the men's room.
Uh-oh.
Plans in the folder are in the
Okay. We
next
could,
office over there.
Move on.
yeah, 55 South Street. Okay. If not, then we will go to our continued public hearing. And this is Scotland Maple Street, 40B. And this is discussion 53G. And I believe we do have an estimate in for the 53G.
This- All right, so at the last meeting, this commission was continuing the previous meeting to tonight to discuss the hiring of a 53G to do a consultant to do the review of all the drainage on the project. And I contacted the engineering company that the commission has used on almost all the projects in the past. And it was Allen and Major, and they have submitted a proposal to review the plans and documents that were submitted, that they would check compliance with Massachusetts stormwater regulations. They will review the notice of intent and materials submitted with that notice of intent. They will provide a written summary of the findings to the Conservation Commission for its review. Perform one round of follow-up review if revisions to the site drawings are required, and attend one public hearing to present and discuss the findings with the commission. And I'm recommending that you hire them to do that work and require the developer to deposit with the town a sum of $4,000.
That's the amount for the review.
Right.
Any, I mean, I'm impressed. I thought it was gonna be higher than that
Me too,
personally.
I thought it was just a deposit.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh.
usually it's a lot more than that,
Oh.
yeah.
So,
That's fine.
okay.
I'll make a motion.
Motion of
Second.
moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. On to the next phase.
Do I bring the check to you?
Yes.
Can you give us his contact info, or do we deal with you, or you deal with him?
They haven't followed the next meeting.
Oh,
Right. We haven't set that. Yep.
so before we move on, it's my idea, so that this commission doesn't waste its time, that prior to the review engineer that you've now hired looking at these plans, that the review engineer, the developer and his team, and I sit down and discuss what I consider to be deficiencies that I see right away with the project. There's no sense in having the design review engineer for working for the commission look at plans that later on I go through and say, I'm not in agreement with this, I'm not in agreement with that.
Right.
So if we start off right off the bat with everything that I have concerns with, which a lot of it was discussed at the last meeting, then the time savings for this commission, instead of having continued meeting after continued meeting where the abutters have to come in
Right.
every 2 weeks, I feel that that's the best way to handle this. So I would like to, between now and next meeting, sit down with the team and the consultant and go through it. He didn't really include this in the proposal.
Right, right.
However, I think that would be a matter of cost savings in the end,
Yeah.
so that there won't be more than the follow-up review, because I know it would go at least a couple of reviews beyond that, and we're going to have to get a new proposal for anything after the first follow-up.
That makes sense.
So that's my recommendation.
All right. You guys are okay with that, setting up something?
We know,
Okay.
we appreciate that.
Okay.
So will the time frame be within the next couple of weeks? I know
Yes.
you'd like to move this along as quickly
Yeah,
as
we,
possible.
yeah, but, I mean, it takes what it takes, so, that's a more efficient way of doing it.
Yeah, it is.
So, my idea is that you could continue it to the next meeting, so that a kind of a summary of what has transpired with that preliminary meeting
great,
with the engineer and the team and
Yeah.
me. And then the abutters can hear. No action will be taken because they won't be able to really do
No final.
anything to the plans, or they might. And the review engineer wouldn't have anything to do to report. So I think at least by giving the commission an update and the abutters can hear the update, I think they'll be informed as to what we're doing.
Great.
Right now, we have, when's the next meeting? We have
2 weeks.
2 weeks. I don't have the calendar, but the 4th, is it?
February 4th. So for anybody here for the project, there'll be a status update February 4th. Won't be any decisions or anything made. It's just reporting on where we are at that point with a review process.
John, are you gonna reach out to Helen and Major and then let us know when the meeting is?
Yep.
And it'll be at your office, or?
Yes.
Okay.
And where do I drop off the check?
Conservation and to the town of West Bridgewater.
Okay.
I will entertain a motion to continue to the February 4th.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
Now backing up. Yes.
So we didn't have an opportunity to ask questions as a butter?
All right. No.
This one was just to hire or get the 53G set, agree to it, him get the money into us, and now the consultant can start reviewing.
Because at the last meeting, they said they were going to give updated plans with heights that they were raising and things like that.
They didn't provide that, so, and they have to provide updated plans 1 week before the hearing,
Okay,
and they didn't provide it, so it's an automatic continuance.
okay, thank you.
And that's why we said 2 weeks from now, we're gonna
Yep.
open it back up so we can get, and see if new plans are done. And if not, at least find out from the meeting where we're going forward. from
And
the-
so can we only, so we got the plans to review after the meeting, and there was a couple inconsistencies that we did not discuss at the previous meeting, with the road widths. So we would, as an abutter, a direct abutter, I definitely want that looked at, because they did not state on the plans, it said a 7-foot private right of way, but in the meeting, they were talking about 24 feet for road and 2 feet for a sidewalk. And there's no measurements about where that's set up, where you have your 33-foot right of way is the road centered. There's no measurements on the plan, so just, if that could be looked at as well.
Yeah, they're not the final plans. so-
Okay.
What I would recommend is if you can email me with all of your concerns and questions, I could try to get those incorporated into
Prior to the
this
staff.
meeting,
Appreciate
and say, you've got to address this, you've got to address this other question that abutters have. You've got to look at what's bothering me, what's bothering the commission members.
Okay.
And maybe we can get a set of plans that can be reviewed. They may not necessarily be final plans, but at least we stand a chance of not having to come every 2
Okay.
weeks,
Thank you.
month after month.
Yep,
And everybody's so tired of it, you just want to go home and say, forget it.
thank you.
159 South Elm?
Heard you were looking for me. I had to-
That's okay.
Sneak
We've
out
got
the phone
plenty to
call.
keep us busy. While you're setting up, I will read this into the record. Under the Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40 of Mass General Law is amended, and the West Bridgewater Wetland Protection Bylaw Rules and Regulations, the West Bridgewater Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing the 21st of January in the McDonald Brown Conference Room, 65 North Main Street, for a request of determination of applicability filed by Roy and Barbara Barker for a property located at 159 South Elm Street. And we're open. And, go ahead.
For the record, Peter Lyons with Collins Civil Engineering Group, representing the homeowners for a residential septic repair. It is a failed system being replaced. We're contending with a wetland in the back of the property and also across the street. The oranges are 50-foot buffers and the pink is our 100. What we're proposing is to replace the existing septic tank with a 1,500-gallon 2-compartment tank and a gravity system out to a reasonably sized 14 by 29 leaching bed. Basically going to be replacing the old system. Location-wise, we're not taking down any trees. Grading's not really going to change at all over the system. A couple other notes on the plan. We show our erosion control wrapping up along the edge of the driveway to protect the westerly portion, and additionally on the east side, starting at the house corner up to the street. Because of the across the street wetland, we were also providing a 8-inch straw wattle paralleling the street line to prevent anything from washing that way. We show soil stockpile areas, dewatering pit location, and a detail on the plan. 2 conservation posts along the existing tree line in the backyard. We show a detail for that up top. Pretty straightforward septic repair. Any questions from the commission?
Is there a septic there now?
There is, yep. We'll be replacing the tank, more or less the same location. And there's a slightly larger than what we're proposed leaching area shown by a dashed light gray line in the front yard. So we'll be digging up the old system and replacing it with new stuff.
The old field, that way they're updating it?
Yes, the current system is in failure.
What's the address of this project?
This is 159.
159 South Elm Street,
159?
159. The wetland markers you propose are on the tree line or the, because it looks like there's, the tree line kind of extends past the access point where the 2 markers are gonna be. Is that a mowed area underneath, looking at the?
It's, yeah, basically lawn up to where we get the squiggly lines is roughly our edge of lawn tree line. And then there's a couple trees that kind of isolated out into that.
Not a legal meeting.
The typo. They put 1593
1593.
on the letter that went out. However, the one in the paper was 159.
Technically.
Did everyone get that? Your buttons?
In the minute posting,
You got that because you're in the butter, right?
Yes.
Did everyone get that? That's in the
Is
butter?
there anybody else here for
That's my call.
159?
You sent the,
That was the same story.
right, I just want to see if the rest of
So it's an
the,
illegal meeting then, right?
see if
Yes, it
there's
is.
any others.
It's a legal meeting because it was advertised in the
It's
newspaper.
legal?
Yes, it was
Yeah, the-
advertised
You
in,
didn't notify me of
it
the
was,
butter then?
it was advertised in the paper properly,
What paper? Yeah.
the
We don't
Enterprise.
have,
You received notification, you came to the meeting, you hear that it's 159. So if you had not come to the meeting because you thought you were nowhere near 1593 or whatever it is there, then yes, it probably would have been a flaw,
yeah,
but
but
you're here.
where's your obligation in getting correct information out?
So you could have called the conservation office and
I
asked
didn't
about.
get this till today.
Okay, but it's a legal meeting, so your point is taken. It was a mistake by the applicant when they mailed out the notice to you, but you are here, you hear the correct information.
everything's,
You nailed me once because I was a day off on a notice.
yeah, everything in the file is 159.
159.
It's just a typo on the letter that went out to the abutters.
You
Did you-
misled me.
Did you have an
Period.
Okay,
objection?
well, you can object if you'd like.
I do object.
Good evening.
I have no questions on.
Anybody other questions? John, comments,
None.
anything?
And is it gonna be basically the same level?
Yeah. Yep.
Everything's in front?
Everything's out.
Everything's in front. All the work to be done is in the front yard. Existing systems out front. No trees coming down. Once it's done, it's gonna look
Yeah.
more like just like it does now.
Well, systems in failure, so.
I'll entertain a motion to close.
Motion to close.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
And issue a -3 determination.
I'll entertain a motion to issue a -3.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
We have 55 South Street, stormwater management permit.
Since I don't think there's anybody else out there. Excuse, ma'am? Were you here for that one?
No, I was here for the first one for the wetlands.
Oh,
The
okay.
butter
Oh,
up
okay.
on
Okay.
The last house on West Center Street.
I just wondered if you
No,
got
it's
the
okay.
the incorrect info too. All right. Anybody else here for 159? By the DEP's wetland regulations, you don't even have to notify abutters. We do that.
As a
We do that
courtesy.
as part of,
Just in general, yeah.
so as long as it got put in the paper correctly, it is a legal meeting. 55, apparently they're not here, so I would recommend continuing.
I'll entertain a motion to continue.
Motion to continue.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Okay, next we have under administrative discussion, stormwater public participation meeting discussion.
Yes, under the EPA's stormwater permit that they issued to the town, we are required to yearly hold a public meeting for the residents of West Bridgewater to come in and discuss stormwater regulations, how they would like to see stormwater handled, whether they like our plans to handle it, and so forth. So in order to start the process, we needed to have it on the agenda tonight so that we can have a meeting advertised in the newspaper, and I'm recommending that it be on the 3rd of March.
What time, John?
Is that a Tuesday night, I hope?
Yep, that's one of
Okay.
our regular meetings.
Good.
So.
I don't want a special meeting to do it. So it would be during our regular meeting. It would give people an opportunity to provide us some input.
Excellent.
So we'd need a motion.
I'll entertain a motion to put that on the agenda.
Make the motion.
Second.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Next, we have discussion for proposed changes to 1 Ames Drive.
All right, on the downloads that I sent you, there's 2 plans. One is the requested change, and the second one was what was originally approved by the commission for Mr. Adams.
Yeah.
Mr. Adams put in more or less a contemporary rectangular style house that was garage in the front and multi-story. This is more a typical home that you would see in West Bridgewater, and the positioning of it is such that it does not impact the 50-foot buffer that you approved on the original one. So he's asking that it be considered a minor project change. The reason why he's able to do this is because he received a determination from the building inspector that the side of that house to the lot line on that side of the house away from the wetland and what you might think is the rear lot line is actually a side yard. And so it's a lot less setback than what the original plan had as a rear setback, which was 35 feet. So he's able to slide that house over, provide, even though it's longer, be able to provide the same amount of room between the erosion control line that you see there. That's the same line as on the original approved plan. So it's my opinion that it's a minor project change and that we don't need to have a new public hearing. And it would take a vote of the commission to make that official.
So everything stays the same other than,
I mean, he changed it so it would look better?
Well, I think he wants a conventional looking house instead of a contemporary looking house.
I think you can't even see it from the street. Can't really see it from the
No,
street.
you can't see it from the street, so.
Tim? How's your
Lots
flip?
of things in.
How's your flip?
so if you click that one,
Oh,
that's the one we had approved.
And you'll
Right,
notice
With the
that,
garage in the front, it was
Right
kind
here.
of a little bit more
So
contemporary.
it's
but it
longer,
stayed-
but this is still the
Right,
same
this,
here?
it just goes from here over this way further.
Okay, that's, yeah.
So they're
that's what I
adding to the,
thought. Yeah.
so that erosion control line in where they show the conservation markers to be set is exactly the same on both plans.
I remember this vaguely, but I'm trying to remember why we allowed the building in that,
Into the 50-foot,
yeah.
because they were providing a conservation easement on.
in replication work
Application area.
below,
Yeah.
Down here somewhere.
down here,
Yeah.
the replication work.
And we
And
got
then
the
the rest
easement.
of it was gonna have the easement.
Okay, I got you.
And then they recorded a plan showing that easement at the
Yes.
registry.
Plus, he had a problem because we were making shift the house and the garage was supposed to face out, and he didn't like the garage facing.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, remember the garage?
Yeah.
So I
Issue?
don't know.
Yep.
So the garage on the new one is to be the opposite side of the house than the original proposal, but right up on the side.
Right.
I mean,
Fits in there.
square footage wise, it's the
It's
same.
pretty much the same, yep.
Fits in, that's all.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm fine.
I'm fine.
all right, I'll entertain a motion to call it a minor change.
Make the motion.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
All right.
Alright.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
We have a request for a certificate of compliance for 279 Pleasant Street.
So this is the granite place at the corner of South Elm and Pleasant Street. And it was a project to do some maintenance and vegetation control on the stormwater basin. I was concerned when I got the request that lateness in the season, that possibly the surface area that they worked in had disturbed the soil enough so that it wasn't stabilized and they couldn't get anything to grow on it until next spring. So my inspection resulted, I found that during the inspection that the workers had gone in and done everything by hand. So they cut the vegetation down by hand, they dragged it out by hand, no machinery was used, and they didn't disturb the ground surface. So the ground surface is still stable, and they accomplished what they were looking for, which was to clean out the invasive species and also the vegetation that was cropping up inside the basin. And now it looks really good. So I'm recommending issuing a certificate of compliance without a bond.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Moving seconded, all those in favor?
All right.
So moved. Okay.
We have one more person left here. That is-
One thing I do want to mention, the February 18th meeting, we have that lot on South Street coming back up. We're going to require them to notify the abutters if that's actually going to happen.
If it's gonna happen,
What is
yes.
it?
That's the lot that I have to recuse myself
Oh,
out in
yeah.
front of me, that
Yeah.
it's been continued and continued and continued so long now that we're
Forgotten about
a year and a half past the original.
How long?
Yeah, almost. Okay.
So we're gonna notify the engineer to either give us another continuance request, or if he's ready to go, that he has to notify the abutters and show us the receipts and all that.
All right. And Danny, you here?
Oh, I'm just
For me?
I'm just trying to catch up on the vocabulary.
Me too.
A lot of terms I don't understand.
All right, then we have a bunch of items to sign.
I guess I'll follow along.
Anytime you want.
There's a signatures required for something you signed at the last meeting, which was the Kenmark copier service
Yes.
agreement.
Yep.
Turns out that everybody, including myself, were thinking the service agreement was an invoice, and when we sent it in for accounts payable, they explained that they don't take a service agreement as an invoice, so we had to ask Kenmark to send us an actual invoice. So it's still for the same service contract, it's now officially an invoice, and because it's dated after the last meeting, we couldn't use the form that you signed the last time, so we ripped that one up and did a new one.
Just gotta go to Lee.
While you're signing, I did like to point out that at the last meeting we had on the 40B project, I asked anybody that was interested in keeping informed of what was happening to email me, and I put them on a list. So I did receive a couple of inquiries, and we now are starting a group list to send out updates and things.
Excellent.
So if more of the abutters that were here tonight will do the same, and we'll get them on a group email list.
How many
I've been seeing some
actual
stuff.
abutters are there along there?
This one I am tearing up because we should not have signed. That's the Hemingway, the riverfront one.
Right, that was continued.
Kitty snuck that one in, so that's
John,
not going
how
back.
many
to-
actual abutters are there over there on Scotland Street?
Scotland Street,
Doesn't look like a huge amount.
You can see the other side of the street too, right?
Yeah.
yes, because it's everybody within 300. I would say that, just from my recollection, there's probably got to be about 60 abutters,
Wow. That's a lot. Thanks.
because of the 300-foot
Yeah.
Radius.
radius.
Oh, that's true, because it goes, yeah.
Anybody else have anything else?
One of the things that you signed this evening is I'm going to MAC, so if anybody wants to go, I'll carpool with them. I'll drive and they can carpool with me, and if you're not going, then I probably will still have company going with me, because some of the other towns
Yeah.
will get a hold of me and say, do you want a carpool? So I won't be by myself.
Excellent.
So you wouldn't have to worry about me.
What date is it this year, March?
It's 29th,
29th, okay.
February 29th.
February, okay.
It's probably going to snow the day before, the day of. It always does.
All right. there's nothing else, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make it.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Not what I expected.